Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun, dun,
Welcome,
dun. The crowd goes wild.
Yeah, welcome everybody to this live with Simone Milicis, who is facilitating relationships on different classes. And I'm here, Emily Lau, Angelique Bernard, and we're going to be interviewing her today about the relationships on different classes.
I love it. Putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Hot seat with Simone.
Yes.
Yeah, Angelique, did you have some questions you wanted to start off with?
Yeah, so we started with this title, like, are you honoring you in relationships? And it really inspired me also. So, and a question, because we saw honoring in the 5 elements of intimacy when we do a class with you, Simone, and I wonder, like, for someone who never done any relationships, done different classes, like if you have some tips or questions that we can start playing with, and how do you know you are honoring yourself in a relationship?
Well, I would say that you're choosing for you, but let's go back a step. I was actually looking at this the other day. I think the first relationship done different class that we did was in 2018. And without a doubt, there's like people who came to that class that were, hey, can you help me find the one? Or can you give me a tool or make sure that, that my boyfriend or my partner does this, blah, blah, blah. And it was always about like basically having to be in a relationship. And number 2, how do I get my partner to do what I've decided they should do? And you mentioned the 5 elements of intimacy, and honoring is one of them. I think personally, one of the most beautiful things I've seen since 2018 of facilitating relationships done different is how people come in with this agenda and they think they desire something in particular. And yet so many people get to walk out. I'm sort of like giving you, if we're about to watch a movie, I'm telling you what the end is. But they come out with this energy of like, holy shit, I can actually have something different with myself. And so the 5 elements of intimacy is gratitude, trust, honor, allowance, and vulnerability. And I looked at this many, many years ago and went, okay, I need to have this with me. I need to have these 5 elements of intimacy with me. And what I've noticed over the years is when you start to have the 5 elements of intimacy with you and your body, then you can have that with somebody else. So how do you know you're honoring you in a relationship? You're choosing for you. I mean, a great question to ask is, who or what do you think of before you choose? Now, this could be anyone. Like you could be like, oh, well, I always think of my boyfriend because, Friday nights he likes to blah, blah, blah. But maybe a Friday night you want to do something different. Or a lot of the times people because relationships is not just about who you're shagging or who you'd like to shag. It's the relationships you have with everyone, your friends, your colleagues, your family, your kids, etc. And one of the tools I looked at when I had a stepson for 8 years, and I remember Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, said to me, Simone, you have to choose for you, because if you choose for you, you show him that he can choose for him. And I think that's a really imperative part about honoring you in a relationship is as you choose for you, you show your partner, your kids, your friends, etc., that they can also choose for you. And what if that is what we were being with each other, is empowering ourselves and empowering everyone else around us at the same time from honoring.
Wow, thank you. I really see that when you start to give up yourself, like in a relationship, the person with who you started the relationship, like it's you stop playing any possibility. So
yeah. I mean, hands up, who's done that? Like, given up themselves for somebody else, and it's like, come on, I can't be the only one. Yeah, come on, Angelique, come on.
2 hands up for sure.
But that's the thing. We've done that, and okay, let's do something here. What if relationships done different is literally about building relationships done different, and it's beyond this reality? And what do I mean by beyond this reality? This reality is that thing of like, I grew up with, my mother used to say to me, you act like nobody owns you. And as a kid, I was like, but nobody does own me, But then I'd be like petulant teenager, hands on hips. Nobody does own me. you know? So from right at that very moment, she's trying to control what I'm choosing, and I'm fighting, and I'm not actually choosing for me. I'm just fighting against. And the amount of people I know, like in relationships that aren't enjoying it, or friendships, like how many friendships have you had throughout your life that weren't actually really working for you, but you were choosing to be friends with that person because they chose you as a friend? And it's like, you're giving up you for this, you know. Or in relationships, I remember my last long-term relationship, my ex loved to surf, and he went surfing one day and he comes back. It was early on in the relationship, and he looked at me like with this, am I in trouble? And I went, what are you doing? And he said, are you cranky at me? And I said, why would I be cranky at you? And he said, because I've been surfing for because he'd been surfing for like 3 or 4 hours. And I went, why? And I said, no, you love it. But his partner beforehand would have just yelled at him and gotten so angry at him because he was choosing something for him that was like 3 or 4 hours. And she looked at it as, this is excluding me. And so we had a chat about it. And I said, hey, I'm not your ex. And I said, I love that you go out surfing for 3 or 4 hours. Number one, you come back so happy and every molecule in your body is just like clanging together and it's a joy. Number two, I get 3 or 4 hours on my own, and I actually like hanging out on my own as well. So I think we don't have these conversations, and the first thing we do is we go to the assumption, which we all know assumption is making an ass out of you and me. We assume what somebody else desires and requires of us rather than being questioned. And that is so based on, you know, the rules of relationship, that who the hell wrote those, but it's all upon this reality, and it's not choosing and creating beyond this reality. And for me, relationships done different is choosing whatever the hell works for you, no matter what that is, because you've got to look at what works for you and choose that, and not choose against yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I've noticed with you too, Simone, because I've known you for close to 7-8 years now, and your personal relationships have changed so much, and you're so vulnerable and open about how those changes. And I know I've changed a lot in the last few years too. And one of the metrics in this reality for measuring the success of a relationship is how long you can be with someone. Like, oh, we've been married for 35 years, and that's a sign of success. So yeah. I love that you're talking about what's beyond that, and like what do you see possible? Because I know that change isn't always comfortable, and it's definitely not comfortable when you feel like somebody else could be affected when you choose. So like, what are some of the tools that you find really helpful in navigating change?
And I think you like, there's a really key piece that you said there is when you think somebody else is going to be affected by your choice, because how many times do you not choose for you going, oh my God, they're going to be upset, they're going to be heartbroken, they're going to be, etc. Like I mentioned my last long-term relationship, and he broke up the relationship with me, and I did that thing where I was like, oh my God, like devastated, you know, and I did it for like a week. And I remember a friend of mine said, you're wearing your heartbreak on your shoulder like a badge of honor. And I was like, I was making every choice I made about the fact that my relationship was now broken up, like Dios mío, mío Dios, you know. And it's okay to be upset. It's okay for all of that to occur. And yet, do you want that to be your reality for how long, you know? And now I look at this, I mean, we're actually friends, and both of us are so happy that the relationship didn't keep going and going. So as you mentioned, you know, it takes some courage to actually choose what works for you. And just because you're in a relationship for 35 years, it doesn't mean it's a great relationship. You know, is it actually working for you? And it's the same thing with kids. When people go, oh, do you wish you'd had kids? I saw this comedian one day going, do you wish you didn't have kids? Like, why is it that marriage and kids is the right thing and no marriage and no kids is perceived as the wrong thing? What if they're all just a choice? And again, relationships done different for me is relationship should be a choice, not a necessity. And I know it bleeds into sex as well. I'm going to say, for me, sex should also be a choice and not a necessity. And people look at either having sex as right or wrong. It's not. It's a choice. Relationship is a choice. But have a look at, Like one of the things I did, and here's a tool that I give you in 2020, you know, when I was all of a sudden I was at home and I was like, what the hell's going on? All my travel plans were changed. And it was like, oh, you figured out, you finally realized life is not predictable and the world is not predictable in 2020. Okay, let's all face it. We all had to go, okay, now what? And I looked at my whole life and I wrote down all of these topics. And the topics I wrote down was business and money, relationships and sex, body, and geographical. I wrote geographical because I wasn't quite sure that Australia is what I desired to call home, right? And I'm still like, I like the world as my home is what I've discovered. And I'd like to have homes in a few different places, which I'm creating. And then my body, what would I like to create with my body? In relationships and sex, quite often that everyone puts together, and business and money, quite often everyone puts together. Not necessarily true. So for the next like 2 weeks, I would do things like go for a walk on the beach, or as I was cooking and asking myself, what would I like in these areas of, you know, of my life? And I'd write down. And so let's look at sex and relationships. Because this relationship had been broken up for about a year, and I did that thing of going, oh my God, I'm never going to have sex again. And I went on, you know, dating apps and that, and went, I realized that's really easy to have sex. Now, good sex, that's another thing, right? You know, but I was like, this is so boring. And a full-time friggin' job being on dating apps. And, you know, but I started looking at that. And I also looked at, do I want another relationship? Or do I just want to have someone to play with and have sex with? And that was more swinging towards where I was going. But I also looked at relationship and went, there's aspects of it I love. Like for me, one of the aspects of relationship is, you know, you get to hang out together, whether you're having a cocktail together or, you know, I don't know, going to breakfast, or you're cooking a meal together with some great music and a bottle of wine. You know, I love that. And like looking at possibilities, but I don't have to copulate with them. And I realized I have so many people in my life that I have aspects of relationship with that I really enjoy. I've got people I love traveling with, or, you know, hanging out with in different countries, but I'm not having sex with them. So I think you have to get a little bit clear on what is it you're asking for in relationships and what is it you're asking for with sex. Now, everything else as well, but then as this is a live about relationships, then different. And when you can, and when I say clear, I don't mean define. I don't mean go, this is what it has to look like and this is what it is. No, it's like, what energy could you choose? Like I knew that what I'd like to create here in the world is about more consciousness, is about more awareness. So, all right, so how do I create that and have the joy of sex and have the joy and the intimacy of aspects of relationship and still keep being in question? Like what I'm currently choosing doesn't mean it's the right choice either. It's a choice, and know when to change and know when to pivot, and not stop yourself from choosing, because as Emily, it's such a big point. Like when you said that you think it's going to affect others, it is going to affect others, but you've already decided, like out there listening, you've already decided it's going to affect them in a negative way. What if it doesn't? What if it affects them in a really positive way? So, or just they get to choose for them and you get to choose for you. Like one of the tools I've been using recently is Simone chooses for Simone, Angelique chooses for Angelique, Emily chooses for Emily. If we function from that, it's going to be a really different reality. And choosing for you doesn't mean choosing against. A lot of people go to, oh, that means I'm choosing against my family or my husband or my kids or my friends. No, it's choosing for you. And as you choose for you, you will show everybody else that they can also choose for them.
I have a question.
It makes me want to cry.
I'm back to back today, and I'm about to go for a walk at El Lugar afterwards. I'm in Costa Rica at El Lugar, and it's so friggin' beautiful. It's amazing. So I'm just like,
I love it. Yeah. I wonder, like, if you are in a relationship with someone who is giving up himself for you, so how can you empower him and like, or be something different?
Slap them. No, I'm kidding. What are you doing? Well, here's the thing. Gosh, and this is why coming to a relationship done different is a really good idea, class, okay? Because this is something that you could definitely explore big time. And we've got a link below for that, simonemelisses.com/RDD. And it starts really soon. We'll give you it's starts in a matter of a couple of weeks. So, but here's the thing, there's so many aspects of that one question that you can explore, because what would you like? Again, so if someone's giving themselves up for you, but that's not what you're asking of them, then what I would do is start manipulating them in a way of asking them questions. And most people go, oh, I don't want to manipulate. It's bullshit. You do manipulate. Every woman who wears cleavage or has this little glint in their eye, or, you know, they're manipulating, they're flirting, right? I mean, in the old days, a woman used to, you know, drop her handkerchief so that the man could come pick up the handkerchief. And, you know, she'd make that was literally making the first move, right? So that's one thing that we can cover in the class, is getting over your point of view of what manipulation is. But for me, if someone was giving themselves up for me and that's not what I desire, is ask them a question. See if you can ask them a question to what it is that they would actually, you know, like to choose. So being in question with them. But here's the interesting element is, it takes a lot of vulnerability and courage to choose for you and to allow your partner to choose for them. Most of the time, people want to choose for themselves, but they also want to choose for their partner. You know, like Emily chooses for Emily and Emily chooses for her partner. Angelique chooses for Angelique and Angelique chooses for her partner. And that is, there's so much mixed up stuff in that of, you either want to try and control someone, you want to change them, you want to train them, you want them to do 80% of what they want, but the last 20%, you want them to do a certain thing. So that's where the manipulation and questions, and for me, being vulnerable enough to have those conversations of going, hey, this is what's up in my world, but not from trying to control someone. It's from, you know, does this work for you? Is this working? God, there's so many conversations that you can have and so many tools and questions that you can ask that can change the direction of a relationship. But here's my first question to everybody listening, whether you come along to a class or not. If you're choosing to be in a relationship, ask yourself the question, what are you choosing it for? Like, what are you choosing it for? And it's that simple. What are you choosing a relationship for? And then start to look at that, because there's so many people, especially over the, you know, the history of relationships, women had to be in a relationship because they pretty much couldn't survive without it, almost, because they needed the man to earn the money and bring that in, etc. And it was considered so terrible and wrong if you weren't in a relationship. And, you know, families married together to create more wealth. And there's so much history in it. But nowadays, you get to choose for you. You can be single, you can be married, you can have multiple partners. Like, there's a lot of different choice available. And in that, I think sometimes there's a bit of confusion. So it's like, just have a moment. What actually works for you? Like I've always said, if I moved in with someone now, I'd have to have a fairly big house, and they definitely have to have their own bathroom. And I'd even request we have our own bedroom. You could have like the interconnecting doors or something. You might sleep together every night, but I love sleeping on my own. And I also like sleeping with someone. So I'd like the choice, not that we have to sleep in the same bed every night, you know, but these things you can ask for, these things you can request. Like, don't choose what everybody else is choosing, choose what actually works for you.
Thank you. I can't wait for the upcoming class.
Me
too.
The thing is, what are we making matter and relevant about relationships that isn't? It doesn't matter, and it's not relevant. Like, you don't have to be normal, you know. You don't have to be normal in what you're choosing. Be different. Be what you would like. And again, if you want to get married and have kids and if you're a woman and you want to be at home and you know, cleaning the house and cooking and everything, that's totally okay, but choose it because it works for you. And a lot of the times, and something that we have, you know, discovered is how many women want to go out there and conquer the world, and how many men just like to be that nurturing energy and that creating that that homey sort of familiar energy. So let the woman go out there and conquer the world. Like, what if we could kibosh the fact that men are supposed to earn more money than women? There's a lot of relationships. Every relationship I've ever been in, I'm earning more money. So what could I do with that? I could control, I could judge, I could dismiss, I could, like, all these different things. Why would I choose that? If I'm choosing to be with someone, why would I make them feel less than? Absolutely not. Like, so what's wrong with a woman paying for a man? You know, why is it right for a man to pay for a woman and not for a woman to pay for a man? Like, there's so many things that we have twisted that we use as a reference point that limit what we can choose. What if relationships done different is time to stop choosing from limitation and start choosing a different reality?
Yeah, and creating a different future with relationships.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Simone.
You're so welcome, Emily and Angelique. I feel like I'm the one that came in like hot. Energy. So thank you so much. And Emily, I get to see you soon here at Elugar.
I cannot wait. I'm sure it's changed a lot since Christmas.
It has changed a lot. And, you know, even that, it's like, you have a horse here, I have horses now. And it's like the relationship also that you have with your horse, with your animal, like with the animals, with the earth. For me, relationships done different. Again, it's not just about the person that you'd like to shag or you want to shag. It's everything. It's like, how do you engage with your colleagues? How do you engage with people around you? How do you engage with the staff when you walk into a restaurant? You know, it's like, what if we get to be something entirely different on the planet? Because it really is time, like, without standing on a soapbox and being like, it's time for us to choose something different. Our world is changing so much right now. What are you going to choose in that change? You know, let's stand up and be all that we can be. That's what I'm asking for. So yeah, cool. So thank you, Angelique and Emily, and I'll see you guys soon. And thanks for being here, everybody, whether you're watching live or at a later moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.